everyone, how's it going today? Chelsea Face here. Today's video is one that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but I think I have perfected my techniques. So I can show you all of the different ways that I buy books. This is just kind of a how to save money when buying books. Of course, everyone has their own free will and options to buy books brand new. It's a little more wasteful that way because you're, paying for more production of these books. But if you want to support the authors and the illustrators, it is the best way to do that other than digital. So if you're going to buy them brand new, you have the free will and the option to do that as a consumer. So this is just for people who want to save money. And I'm not going to judge anyone for how they buy their books. As long as you don't steal them from the store, I don't care. You do you. I'm just trying to help people, maybe. So your first option to buying cheaper books is digitally. I'm not a huge fan of this because I like to have physical copies of my books because it just helps me with reading for some reason. I look at screens all day in my life from work, and when I get home, I'm constantly looking at a screen. So I try to read physical books when I can because it helps my eyes, first of all. I have good vision, but it won't last forever, and I don't want to make it worse by looking at blue screens all day. You can get blue blocking glasses, which I do need to invest in because I'm a graphic designer and I edit videos and I'm constantly looking at a computer screen or a phone screen. So that's just an option that you have. A lot of books are on Kindle or other reading platforms. You can get like a Nook or a Kindle or an iPad, and you can get apps that let you read books for free. You can get very cheap audiobooks through like I think Kindle Unlimited or like other subscription programs that let you get really cheap or free audiobooks every month if you pay a fee, so it's not really free, but it's cheaper because you get more options. I don't know about the quality of those books because you get a bunch of random ones, so just keep that in mind. But if you're buying a full priced digital book, it can range anywhere from free to like $15 I've seen. So it just depends on what the author sets or what the publisher sets or what Amazon sets or wherever you're buying them. It can literally be anything because they have free reign to do that, and I don't know what makes them choose that price, but that's just an option you have if you don't want to buy a physical book to save the planet, or if you don't have the money to buy that physical book or the opportunity and you just prefer digital. Like, that's up to you, but I don't use that, but it's a good option for saving money. The drawbacks of that though would be that you have to own a physical like tablet to read them on, whether that's an iPad or a Kindle or something, and those cost anywhere from like $40 to $300. So you can buy a cheap one or you can just use your phone, but it's hard for me to read them on a screen as small as my phone, so I would probably need to pay like $130 for a decent Kindle. That's the only drawback I see of that if you want digital, but that's an option you have. Of course, you have your libraries. A lot of people don't think about that. Like, if you don't have a local library, then you can just ignore this one. But if you have a library within your vicinity that you can get a library card to, I recommend that first. The libraries are a fantastic source to get free books from. Of course, you're renting them, so they don't belong to you. But there are so many resources that you can get from the library that a lot of people don't even know about. I didn't know about a lot of this until this year. You can go to the library, pick out physical books. Some places let you pick out 1 to 10 books and bring them home. I think our rental time is like 2 or 3 weeks. So depending on your library, depends on how long you can take them. But they give you a paper usually with how long you can keep them. And if they're late, you just pay a late fee. And it's kind of like a donation to that library. So don't even worry about it if you're a little late. It's not a huge deal and they need the money, honestly. So that's an option. Also, a lot of libraries are doing digital services now, so you can get Libby or Overdrive or whatever program they're using. Some people use Hoopla, and you can rent audiobooks or digital books from those services. And you don't get to really pick what you have on there because it's random, so you have a very limited selection, but I bet if you live in a bigger area with more money coming into that library, you have more options. Because I live in a small town and we don't have a ton of options on there, but it is really nice to have an audiobook to listen to on my way to work. So I check it like every week to see if there's something new or something good or a Stephen King, because I like to listen to those digitally, an audiobook. But there's so many options on those. Even if you did buy a Kindle and you didn't want to pay for books, you could just go to the library and do that. They've probably got way more options as far as physically reading it goes. You can get a reviewing site like NetGalley to let you review copies as a option for reading books. Contacting publishers is always an option as well, but you have to have a certain amount of followers to get physical copies to read for free. I would recommend looking into that yourself because I'm not at a point where I can physically request copies from people, or I don't feel comfortable doing that yet. I don't have big enough following, but I've seen people with as low as 2,000 followers on Instagram get review copies, but I think it has a lot to do with how many they make. Like, review copies are more expensive than physical copies of books, like finished copies, because they make less of them. So it's a choice that the publisher makes on who they give them to and how many people request it. So if it's a less requested book and they have a lot of them, you might be more likely to get it. But if it is a super popular, like let's say Riley Sagar's new book, you might have a harder time getting that one, and you might need a bigger following getting that one. So just keep that in mind, do your research, and know if you're eligible to request. But once you are, feel free to find some good email example templates on how to request and be very professional, very adult. Have a blog, have a YouTube channel, have a Instagram, a website, somewhere where you post reviews that has a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, a lot of likes, and a lot of followers, and I'm sure they will let you review the book if they've got enough copies and if you get to them early enough. That is something that you have to be very, very open to rejection. It's going to happen for sure, and I can't wait till I'm able to do that, but I want to at least be at like 2 or 3K before I start doing that. But that's an option if you have that following. I'm sure you already know that if you're there, but that's something that people don't think about sometimes. Also, you have NetGalley, like I mentioned. NetGalley is a website where you can get digital or sometimes physical copies of ARCs, which are advanced reader copies of books before they are published. I do a lot of digital reading on my computer for these ARCs. I like to review a lot of manga through there. Viz and Kodansha have recently gotten on there, so you can do comics, you can do regular books. There's all kinds of genres, all kinds of publishers on there. If you just go by genre or whatever, you can find digital books to request, but you do have to request them, and then they have to approve you for them. So I will warn you about NetGalley. A lot of people will go request happy and they'll think, oh, I'm only going to get approved for maybe one of these, so I'll request like 50 books, and then all 50 of them accept you, because sometimes it's not hard to get approved. Sometimes they just want everyone to read it, and then sometimes it takes a lot more work. But I recommend only doing like 2 or 3 at a time, like giving it 2 weeks and then going back, because there is a time limit on these ARCs, and if you go over, then your percentage goes down. So you want your review to be, I think, above 80%. I think that's the number they give. And I'm at like 75 right now, so I'm not in a bad place, but a lot of people get review happy and they go and they request a lot and then they get approved and they're like, oh my God. Don't mess yourself up if you really are serious about reviewing these books, because you will have to leave a review. You'll have to read them promptly, and you might need a device to read them on, because I don't want to read a regular book on my computer. I've only been reading manga because they're like 200 pages and they're really quick to get through. But if you've got like a Nook or a Kindle, no problem at all. But that's an option you have. Sometimes they do have watermarks on them, so that's just something you got to get used to. Okay, so this next part is where I get most of my books. A lot of these have just been like suggestions, but the majority of how I get my books would be used bookstores or thrift stores. Thrifting is number one in my book. I've only recently started thrifting, so I'm pretty new to the game. There are a lot of economic reasons to thrift for yourself. There's a lot of planet-saving reasons to thrift. But whatever your reason, I'm not going to judge you either way, because I think you have the right to do whatever you want. I do it to save money, number one, and two, because I'm an Aquarius at heart, honestly, whether you believe that stuff or not. And I have like an inner need to not waste as much product as possible. I mean, sometimes it's impossible to not waste product, but I try not to as much as possible. And so I like to buy used things if they're in good condition. Thrifting is a good way to do that. But it's also a chance you take on the condition and the, disease aspect. So always wipe down everything you get thrifted, or wash whatever you get thrifted, depending on what it is. I know a lot of what I'm saying is common sense, but I still just want to say it because some people don't think about that. Thrifting is a great way to get books. I would say it's how I get most of my books. Now, granted, if you're thrifting, depending on where you live and how many people are in that area and how shoppy the people in the area are, you may not get a good selection. I've always lived in small towns and out in the middle of nowhere, so I don't have a huge selection of books to get. So when you go book buying at a thrift store, it's a treasure hunt, literally, because you don't know what's going to be there, if there's going to be anything, but the prices are going to be marginally low. I think the most I've ever paid at a thrift store for a book was like $5, and that was at a Goodwill, and Goodwill, for some reason, marks their stuff a lot higher. I don't know why in particular. I've been to Goodwills, there's Goodwill bookstores, there are Salvation Armies, there's family-owned thrift stores, there's children home run thrift stores that like donate the money to children's homes. There's all kinds of charities. Some of them are better than others, but that's a different point. I've gotten books as cheap as 25 cents from these stores. I recommend digging. Like if you are in a safe place or if you want to wear gloves. Right now is a tough time because we're all in isolation, and we should still be in isolation even though they've kind of opened up the world. If I go anywhere, I'm wearing a mask, and if I could get them, I would wear gloves, but gloves are impossible to get right now where I live. So I just hand sanitize after I leave every store, and I try to be smart and not get around people. So I recommend waiting until all this is over, but if you do go to a thrift store, I mean, you need time. You need to be able to look through these books and see the conditions, see the price, and find what you're looking for. There is a particular thrift store that I go to in my town that is so much better than the rest of them. The rest of them just kind of, I guess they just don't take care of everything, and so they have a huge selection, but they're garbage. People don't typically give stuff to this store for some reason. They give to the other one, and so I know which one's the good thrift store and which one's the bad thrift store to go spend my money at. It's a little bit more expensive. I paid $2 for a hardcover as opposed to like $1 at the other one, but the books are always in really good condition, and there usually are some new ones. So I've gotten so many good books at that thrift store and paid at the most $2 per book, usually $1 to $2. Sometimes they do bundle sales that's even cheaper. So, you know, pay attention to sale days at thrift stores because that is the best way to get books. I love it so much. I always feel like I won the lottery when I find a book that I've been looking for at the thrift store. Maybe have a list of books that you want and then go in, or like know what they look like. That way that if you scan the shelves and you see it, you know what you're looking for. I pretty much have in my head what I'm looking for, and you know, it's really exciting when you find it. Also, you have the option of yard sales and garage sales, or whatever they call it where you are. People don't typically like to keep books. They also don't take very good condition, like care of their books, so you know, just be prepared for that again. But you can find books that way too, and people are usually really willing to get rid of books because a lot of people don't read now. And the final thing that I have suggestion for you is my last and final option. I do not like purchasing from Amazon because of how the conditions are and a lot of political stuff, I guess you could say. If you have no problem purchasing from Amazon, do it. Your freedom. But if you're like me and it's your last option, they have a used section on Amazon that doesn't give as much money to the big people at Amazon. You can go to, like, search the book you're looking for. Let's say I'm looking for Gone Girl. Type in Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Click on the first one because that's the one that everyone goes to list their books. And then there's underneath the price that Amazon gives you, there's maybe 20 in new for this much, or 17 in used for this much. Underneath that, there's a little picture. I might even insert a picture here on the listing just to show you kind of what it looks like. And sometimes there isn't used, so you might have to buy it new, but most of the time there is used. But you can go there to that little used section, and you can buy from thrift stores. You can buy from small bookstores that have a used copy of this book, or maybe they have a new copy. Sometimes the prices are the same as Amazon, so that is up to you if you want to just support that business instead, or if you want to just get the Amazon one. If you have Prime, I get it, because I don't think Amazon Prime goes with these independent places. So you may have to pay more for these copies, but most of the time they are lower, in my opinion. Like, I usually buy from the used people on Amazon, and I get a lot from thrift stores. Usually they're in good condition, but you really don't know what you're getting. If you are concerned about the condition of this book, you could probably message that seller and ask them for pictures. I don't think they would really object if you bought it. I've never done that, but they've been very nice when I have contacted them. It's literally random who you're getting it from. I've bought from comic book stores, from lots of Goodwills and thrifty places. So it's just people who use Amazon as a platform to sell that book because they have a copy of it. I do a lot of shopping that way when I use Amazon. I think I might have only bought 2 brand new books from Amazon, so most of mine are used. Just be sure to pay attention to the shipping on that because that might make it go up in price. But you can sort by like condition, and then you can sort by free shipping, and I think it automatically filters by cheapest to highest price. So, you know, that's something that Amazon does for you, so you don't have to dig for it. There's also websites like Alibri and Thrift Books. I've never used those because they typically don't cost less than Amazon used, but that is an option, and I want to start using more of that kind of service too if I can find what I'm looking for, because sometimes you can find books that you can't find on Amazon there. So keep those in mind as well. It's also a used bookstore. You're getting them. It's kind of like Poshmark for books. Like an independent seller lists the book on the website, and I think they get most of the money, but then the website gets a percentage of that sale, and then you pay for shipping along with whatever price they listed. But sometimes they list books for like $1, and then the shipping is like $7. So, you know, it's like, I think most people put the money in the shipping. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of weird. I've never bought through there, but it looks legit, and they have a lot of good books. That's the tips I give for buying used books and getting a good deal on books. If you're like me and you like a good deal, that's the best way I found to do it. Thrift stores is number 1 in my book. But, you know, depending on you as a person, whatever you're comfortable with. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for how you buy books cheaper, let me know, because I'm very, very interested in that. I like to save money when I can so that I can spend it on other things, or I can buy more books with that money that I saved. And occasionally I will pre-order a book or buy one new to support the author, depending on who they are. But I understand that everyone's different and everyone has their priorities. So this is a no judge zone. This is a judge-free zone. So let's not be mean to each other, okay? Anyways, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.